Welcome, everyone. We're super excited to have you all on this webinar for how Microsoft Teams can support business continuity and companies working remotely. Let's do some quick introductions here so you know who's speaking to you. My name is John Hoyt. I'm the Solutions Consultant here at TMC, and I'll be doing the webinar for you this afternoon. I work with the sales team, but I'm the functional and technical expert there, and I'm joined by my colleague, Brett Hensley. Brett is the VP of Sales and Marketing for TMC. He handles all the onboarding of our new clients and manages the sales and marketing teams. He'll be managing the chat for me this afternoon. So if you have any questions as we go through, just put them there and Brett will either try to answer them directly or we'll try to gather together answers, either present them at the end if we can, or if not, we may do follow-ups or some type of an email to address those. Some basic housekeeping items to go through first. Again, thank you for joining us today. We hope all of you and your loved ones are safe and feeling well. We know this is a hard time for many on both a personal and a professional level. So here at TMC, we just want to offer our best wishes to everyone. Question number one on every webinar we do, yes, this is being recorded. We will send out a link after the call is completed so you can rewatch everything we've taught you here. And we'll also share the recording with the rest of your employees and throughout your company. We have everyone on mute, but if you have questions, please just insert them into the chat. We'll try to answer them as we go through. You'll notice we're using Zoom again for the webinar. This is so that I can work in kind of the admin role, which I would not be able to share with you if we were doing this inside a Teams meeting proper. I basically have to put all of you on hold, go do the work and come back and put you off of hold. So we're going to use Zoom simply as a means of sharing this information, but obviously our goal is to get everybody comfortable in using Teams. There is a free 6-month trial of Teams available from Microsoft to everyone. You can sign up through TMC, and we'll have a slide with some info on that promo at the end of the presentation. But I do want to mention it right here at the beginning in case anybody has to drop off early for some reason. Microsoft is making this tool available for you and your organization for 6 months at no cost to you. I'm also going to tell you today that we're going to do our final webinar in this series next week, same date on Wednesday, same time. And we're going to go over some of the more advanced topics. And I have some details about that when we get to the end here. We have a lot of different people with us on the call today, both current TMC clients. Some of us have been with us for many years now and own many of the products that you see over on the right-hand side of this slide. Teams, Office 365, maybe one of the Dynamics or the ERP or CRM solutions, or maybe they're using TMC as their Azure hosting partner. We also have some companies who are in the process going through a join TMC, discovery calls, demos, things like that. Welcome to all of you. And finally, for anybody who's from outside the current TMC family, we're very happy to have you join us today as well. Welcome to all of you. For those who are not familiar with TMC, just a real quick overview. We are a Microsoft Gold certified partner, headquartered in Los Angeles. And while we are experts primarily within the Microsoft Dynamics family of products, and that's where our roots are historically, but we do provide support for the other Microsoft Cloud products as well, whether that's Office 365, Power BI for analytics, Power Apps for extending the functionality out and doing some customizations that fit your needs and your requirements, and of course the Microsoft Azure Cloud Services support. With so many customers going through the digital transformation journey right now, TMC can help provide those services to support our clients as they make that transition from the on-premise world to the cloud world. And of course, with the current circumstances, some people are looking to make that transition a little quicker now, a little more impetus behind that, realizing that to support remote work and remote capabilities, being a cloud-based organization is really going to be the way to go. So the call today with topics around working remotely, using Teams, that's just one part of that overall puzzle. And if you're interested or need support with any of the other solutions that you see here, please feel free to reach out to either Brett or myself. With that out of the way, I want to quickly recap our first webinar for those who missed it. There is a recording available, and then we'll go over the agenda for today. In our first webinar, what we went over really was just some of the basics of how we're going to work from home and how we're going to use Teams as part of that transition, abrupt and unexpected as it was, from going to the office and doing my work to now trying to do the work remotely. How do I get through those steps? And to kind of emphasize a couple of those, define your workspace if you can. Try to pick some place where you can focus and you can be quiet. And also, ideally, a place where at the end of the day, you can kind of close up shop and walk away from it. Try to maintain that work-home balance, that separation, even though physically we can't do the separations right now. Take the time, dress the part. It's worth it. I still get up in the morning and shower and shave and put on my work clothes and walk 10 steps down the hallway to my office, and that's my commute. I've been working from home for about 8 years now, and it really makes me feel like I'm going to work if I go through those kind of ritual steps every morning like we've all been used to for so long. And finally, be considerate with your fellow employees, with your coworkers, with those in your larger community that you work with, but also maybe with your spouse or anybody else who's working at home. We're all getting used to this new environment. It's going to be a change for everybody. And just think about that, what your behaviors and your activities, what impact they might have on others around the area. So for today's agenda, here's what we're going to go over. I want to talk about how we create a team, how we use channels within those teams, and then how we can set up private meetings, public meetings, meetings that are open to everybody in your organization, and how you can manage those activities inside your teams and inside your channels. Talk a little bit about the workspace within the Teams environment itself, what you can do to kind of personalize that by adding in new tabs and new functionality. And some of that functionality may be things like adding a connector to a third-party app or a software program you're currently using, and you'd like to get that connector built so that you can use that functionality as part of the Teams environment. And then within that, we are going to have access to files and other documents. We want everybody on the team to have access to that. And in order to do that, we're going to talk about where we can do our different document storage. We're going to get away from storing everything locally in My Documents. That's old school. Now we're going to be talking about the new world. And then finally, I want to talk about how you can use Teams on the mobile devices that you have access to. And for those that are under current stay-at-home, work-at-home orders, maybe that's not a great feature. You're not going out and about, so doing Teams on the phone at the moment doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But if we think forward when we can get past this current issue, we are going to be back into that world of being out and about. And I want Teams on my mobile phone. I want it on my tablet. And we'll talk about where we can get those. So, a couple of basic definitions. A team is the group of people that are going to work on something. Teams are people. Sometimes it's a subset of the colleagues and coworkers in your organization. Maybe it's the entire organization. But again, the team is just going to be that group of people. I do want you to keep in mind, however, Teams is something that is open to those outside your organization that also have a Teams license, and that last part is very key. But I can create a team today that allows me to work with those critical suppliers to my business, with my primary customers, or whoever else it might need to be. And we can have the same activities. We can chat, we can call, we can have video meetings, we can share documents back and forth. Teams is bigger than just your organization if you want it to be. And again, that key requirement being that it's going to have to be done with everybody having a Teams license. So let's talk real quickly out of the PowerPoint. And let me pull up my system and we'll go into Teams. I'm actually going to build a new team real quick. So I'm using the desktop app here. I can do this from my phone. I can do this from the web client. Whatever access point you want to get into Teams, that's fine. When I click on the Teams icon over on my folder group in the left-hand panel here, I'll see all the teams that are currently set up. And I've got my general team. This is for the organization. I can build that and say simply, everybody who's got basically part of my email domain, you're now going to be part of my team. Or I can create more specific teams that are focused on, those unique activities or tasks. It's a smaller group of people. And I've got one for the webinars that we're working on. But to build a new one, I can simply click on the link down in the bottom lower left corner there. I'm going to either create a new team, or if you've been invited to join a team, I can simply paste in the code that I received as part of that invitation, and that will link me together with the other people inside of that team. For here, we'll go ahead and create a team. Now, I'm going to build a team from scratch in this case, but you could have teams that are based upon an existing group, maybe out of your Office 365 environment. We can leverage all of those capabilities because we're using the same tools in the background. It's Azure Active Directory and Exchange Online that does all the authentication of the people. So if you built it in one part of Office, we can use it here inside the teams. But I'll build this from scratch. Now, when you build a new team, you first have to decide what kind of team do you want to build. A private team is something that is very restricted. You have to invite people to join a private team. And if they don't get that code, that link, then they wouldn't even know that the private team exists. A public team is something that anybody who's part of your organization, part of your email domain, can choose to join or not choose to join. If it's relevant to them, welcome. If it's not, then they can leave it out. Those are the public teams. Organizational wide teams are those that automatically gather everybody from the team, from the organization, from that email domain, and makes them part of the team that they're going to join. And so I could do that, for example, and grab everybody. And maybe what I want to do is I want to build a COVID-19 team, automatically gather everybody from my organization. And this is where I'm going to have all of the news and updates relating to COVID-19. And then I can go ahead and create that team. And again, now everybody who is part of my organization will automatically be given the option or automatically be included inside of that team. If you're going to create a private team, you're going to go through the same kind of steps. But in this case, I'm going to build one and I'm going to invite people. And so maybe I want to do one for my sales team. And this is going to be all about sales activities. And now when I create that team, first I get a little feedback. And now I need to go through and I need to start adding in the people, the team members that I want to include. And in this case, I want to include Ben. And I'll add him in. And I want to get Nick. And Glenn will be my last team member. So while I add those in, Teams goes out and looks through Azure Active Directory and says, yes, these people are all valid. They're all going to be fine. I'm setting them up initially just to be members. But if I needed to add in somebody else as a co-owner to this team, I could do that. Maybe I'll make Ben my co-owner here. And now that team has been created. But again, that's going to be private. And only those people that receive the email invitation will have the link. They can go into their teams. They can open that up and join that team. So again, a team is going to be a group of people And then you can have different types, the private teams, the public teams, or those organizational wide teams. Now, the teams themselves are going to be made up of the channels. And channels are the area where we're going to have the conversations or the activities with our teammates. Within a team, I can have multiple channels. Each channel can be addressing a specific topic or activity, project. Think of channels as where all the work's going to get done, where all the tools that are available in the Teams world, whether it's chats, whether it's phone calls, whether it's video calls, whether it's meetings. This is going to be where I'm sharing files. This is going to be where I may use some of those external apps because I need to connect maybe a project app or something of that type together. So now within my team, I can say we'll use again my COVID-19 here. When I build COVID-19, the general tab gets built for you automatically, that channel. And this is where the kind of day-to-day, ordinary, non-specific activities might occur. But I can then go in and say, we need to create a new channel. And in that new channel, maybe this is going to be about a promo we're going to run in the fall of 2020. I can put in my description. This is where I set my privacy level for this channel. So standard, the default, everybody can access what I'm creating, or I can set up a channel that is private and a subset of the team. Maybe it's the management of the overall project. They're the ones that get invited to participate in that channel. I'll leave this one as standard, and I'm going to set this to automatically show the channel for everybody. So that'll show up in their list automatically. I can go ahead and add that in. So again, the channels, that's where the work gets done. And the channel conversation itself, at that general level, the chats that I have there, they're going to be public. Everybody's going to see those. But if I need something a little more private, I can go down into one of those selected channels and say that's where I'm going to have that chat. So the functions that you have, the chat functions, the call functions, the file sharing, can be done at the general level, they can be done at the Teams level, they can be done inside those specific channels. Once you have your team built, the next step in the process, of course, is going to be to go in and create your first meeting. To do that, I'm going to switch out of the Teams view. I'm going to come over here to the calendar view, and I'm going to schedule a new meeting. So maybe the first one we're going to do will be our kickoff meeting to the new project. I can go in and add my required attendees, and that will again be Ben, then that will be Nick, and that will be Glenn. Set the date, set the time. We're going to do this meeting on Friday. We'll do it at 1:30. That should be fine. I'm going to set this one up to be a repeating because I want to do it weekly. It's going to be our status meetings as well as the kickoff this time around. I can add in a channel if appropriate. And so I want to go in and maybe I want to add out of my webinars. I'll grab the general channel, location, details, etc. Once everything's been set, I can simply send that meeting invite out. It's now going to be on the calendar for people. And you'll notice, as with my Teams webinar for this afternoon, we're going to have that join meeting right inside the calendar. So when you get the reminder, it's time to join that meeting. There's the link. I don't have to click anything elsewhere. I can just go ahead and move to that. Public meetings, private meetings. That really depends on how you set up your team and then the channel initially. If you had a privacy setting when you created the team, we're going to respect that privacy setting when we create meetings, when we do the scheduling, when we do screen sharing, etc. You can have public events That's going to be open to anybody who has a link to attend. That means I can send a link to Ben. Ben can forward the link to Nick. Nick can join just with that link. He doesn't have to be invited in. Private events are different. I can restrict the attendance to just my organization, just specific people or groups. In that case, the attendees will need a login in order to join. If you have the login, come on in. If you don't have the login, sorry, you're not going to be allowed to join that particular meeting. And again, very important as you plan out your schedules of meetings and who's going to be invited, in order to use Microsoft Teams to host that meeting, everybody is going to need to have a Microsoft Teams license. Okay, let's move on. Adding in new tabs. The tab function inside a team allows me to either work with those tabs that are existing, and there's a Files tab, there's the Wiki tab, etc. But I can also create my own new tabs. The Wiki tab itself is a smart text editor that's going to allow me to draft messages, edit them, chat, all in one place. And that really is kind of the goal here, of course, to the adoption of Teams, is I'm going to be doing all of my work, all of my activities that relate to a team or a channel inside this Teams tool. Again, that's why we have those connectors to the outside world. So, let me go back into that team setting. I'll pull up my webinar again. And these are the tabs that I'm referring to. So the general tab will have first one, any new posts. Anything that relates to this team or to this channel. This is just a running wall of information that everybody will have access to. Files will allow the team members to upload files, download files, work with files inside this environment. This is designed to be collaborative. So I can open an Excel file, I can open a PowerPoint file, I can work on it here in Teams while my colleagues add their input simultaneously. We're all working in one common document, and it's automatically being updated and saved for me. And then finally on that Wiki tab, again, this is just going to be kind of free form. This is my editor to create messages, edit those messages, chat with other members of this particular channel or this particular team. Real useful tool, for example, when I'm just simply taking notes about something going on in our meeting. Put it right here into the Wiki pages. Or add in whatever new tabs I might want. And these new tabs can include both pieces of Microsoft Office, like I can add in Excel forms or OneNotes or things like that. I can also add in tabs for those third-party connections. And that's what I wanted to talk about next. So the apps are designed to allow me to extend the Teams environment and the Teams functionality to areas of interest or concern or functionality that Microsoft simply hasn't gotten around to. If you think about what you're using in your job today, the different systems, pieces of software, the tools, the files, dashboards, reports, whatever it might be, your company is already using probably a pretty wide range of those types of products. And in many cases, we're going to be able to add that system, that experience, that functionality directly into the Teams environment, as well as some of those activities that are written specifically for the Teams environment. To get to that, I'm going to click first down here on the apps. This allows me to search through everything that's available. The filters along the left-hand side will allow me to narrow down my selections, or I can simply use the search function and say, I want to see everything that you have that relates to sales. Maybe I'm a Salesforce customer right now. I can add in a connector so that Salesforce and Teams can talk to one another. Maybe I'm using Zoho's CRM system. Obviously, if you're using the Dynamics CRM system, that's going to be part of the larger Microsoft Office and Dynamics world that comes along. One of the things that people are going to want to do some investigation into, perhaps, as we're all working remotely, how do I manage my projects? And maybe you are already using something like Trello's project management tool, or maybe it's something you're going to consider adopting. I can simply come here to the apps list, click on that link. It'll take me to a page that gives me a description of what I can do, and I can choose to add that in either to the team or to a specific chat, because that's where I want to have that access is in a chat. And again, what this is going to be is the connector out to my Trello environment. There I've got the details about my project, the results, etc. I can go through and add that in. Once I've added in the apps that I'm going to be using or adopting as part of my team's world, if I come over to the little ellipsis here, this will allow me to find what we call personal apps. These are apps that I have chosen to include that may not be adopted team-wide or channel-wide, something that I want to have access to. So I have a dedicated location in my navigation toolbar there that I can go directly into things like I want to get to OneNote, or I want to get to Planner, or if I've added in Trello or something of that nature. So again, those are going to be the personal apps. And then we can use those apps both in the individual chats, in the channels. We're going to allow messages to do more than just have text in them. I can embed files, I can embed images, I can embed links to an external system, etc. Some of the apps that are out there will allow you to actually answer questions and follow commands. We refer to those as the bots. Some of the bots do things like help me schedule meetings, because I can indicate everybody that's part of the meeting and then go look across multiple calendars. Is this a good time for everybody? Fine, let's go ahead and schedule the meeting at that date and that time. The apps will allow notifications, so we're going to push information out. We want to make sure that we keep the appropriate people informed. We don't want to create a tool that requires somebody to continually log in and monitor just in case something new. Turn on the app notifications where they're appropriate. Send them to Outlook, send them to the desktop as a pop-up, send them to your phone, have a chime that goes along with it, etc. And again, some of those apps will be able to offer us a personal view. How does it relate to me, as opposed to how does it relate to the team or to the channel that I'm working with? When it comes to document storage, we are going to support a variety of cloud-based file storage locations. From the desktop version of Teams or from the web app, just click on Files. It's in the navigation over on the left-hand side, and then click to add cloud storage. At the moment, we are able to share files from Box, Dropbox, Dropbox for Business, Google Drive, Ignite, ShareFile, and Teams. You will need to sign in with your account for that particular cloud storage service. You might also need to turn off a pop-up blocker first if you're using Teams out of the browser. And now I can add files from that cloud location as well as from my local computer and put them up into the channels. Quick note, if you, for some reason, that cloud storage option doesn't appear when you click on the files over on the left-hand side, just contact your IT admin. That function may not have been enabled and will need to get set up. Okay, so again, once I've got that cloud storage set up, then I can go in and I can see the folders. I pick which folders out of my cloud storage location I want to share with the channel. It's not an invitation to see everything you have in your cloud storage location. It's going to be folder by folder. Quick note here, people that are using OneDrive as their cloud storage solution, A support for adding folders to that account is coming soon. I don't have a release date for that, but I'm hopeful that it will be in the very near future, so that again, everything that's up in your OneDrive accounts right now will be visible as well. And finally, a quick note there, sharing a folder in Teams or in a channel where that folder is based in your cloud storage solution will not automatically grant access to the team members. You'll need to do that through the cloud storage provider's location and their tools to allow those remote users to come in. Again, once we get things over into OneDrive, or if you're using something like SharePoint, then it's automatically going to be included within those teams. And then final topic on our agenda today, just a quick note about Teams on the mobile devices. And again, with everybody working at stay-at-home, work-at-home kind of conditions today, maybe not that important of a deal, but it will become more important once those restrictions get relaxed. And at that point, we'll be able to talk about whether you want Teams on your tablet, you want it on your smartphone, your laptop, whatever device you want to bring. We have clients for all of those. Android devices, Apple devices, whatever it might take. I can show you real quickly what it looks like. Let me just pop up my phone here on the screen, and I'll drag this over to the left just a little bit. So this is the chat function inside of Teams. And when I'm done with that chat, I can maybe switch to my calendar view. And I want to see what's coming up in the balance of the day. You can see in my calendar, I've got a number of Teams meetings set. The join button will allow me to join that meeting directly from my phone in a single click. The fact that this one's colored in simply means that this is active, as opposed to something that's either coming up later in time or coming up tomorrow or something. All the functionality that I have on the desktop client or that I have on the browser client for Teams will be available here inside the phone application. I'm simply going to need to get used to maybe a slightly different look and feel and layout, of course. Limited screen real estate will have that impact. So I'm going to minimize that. Again, just an illustration. This is kind of what it looks like inside a Samsung device. Apple device may look a little bit different, of course. To close out the webinar this afternoon, I just want to repeat again from last week what I kind of consider to be my top tips for people that are new to Teams or thinking about adopting Teams as a tool inside your organization. Once you get Teams up and running, please practice ahead of time. It makes all the difference in the world when users are comfortable with and familiar with how to operate inside the Teams environment. And that might be something as simple as learning how to go up and click on your picture and then go to settings, and that's where I find the devices. And I can tell Teams which camera I want to use or which set of speakers I want to use if I'm working in my desktop environment. Second and third points here really relate to everybody's new experience of working remotely. Teams is a great way to stay in contact, to communicate with one another, to collaborate back and forth on your projects. Again, I've been working remotely for more than 8 years now, and I know how much more enriching a activity is from my perspective when I can do it as a video chat with one of my colleagues, and we can see each other, pick up all the body language and all those hidden cues that don't come across when I'm calling. And by the same logic, I would rather call somebody than chat with somebody, just to hear their voice, the emotions and the context that that can convey. It also can, frankly, shorten the conversation significantly because we're not typing back and forth. My kind of rule of thumb with my colleagues is when I see you starting to type the fourth response in the chat, I'm dialing you on the phone. Let's just get through this. Secondly, finally there, if you're working from home, you may have access to a variety of devices in terms of speakers and microphones and cameras. kind of take an inventory, figure out which ones are the best quality, offer the best sound, or offer the best picture, and use those as much as you can. The clarity of the call, the clarity of the video makes a big difference. And just to illustrate that, I pull up my browser here, and a quick plug for the Microsoft site. Microsoft, at this particular URL, you can just search for Office products, Teams, hardware, something like that. We can put the link perhaps later in the follow-up email or something. But these are all of the approved Teams capable headsets, speaker phones, desk phones. We've got room systems if you want cameras, etc. Good quality equipment makes a big difference in how you come across to your colleagues, to those people in your larger ecosystem. If you work in teams with your suppliers and your customers, your project people, etc., the better you know and can work with the equipment that you have, the more satisfying you're going to find the overall experience of going through the Teams world. Okay, a couple of next steps for everybody today. Next step number 1, Microsoft is offering again that free 6-month Office 365, and that includes Microsoft Teams. If you are not already signed up for Office 365 and Teams and you want some help, please reach out to us here at TMC. We're happy to get you signed up for that. That'll let you get started with Teams and all the great capabilities that come along with that. The second next step, we're going to do one final webinar next week, Wednesday again, 1 o'clock again. We're going to be doing our advanced training, and this is going to focus really on the admin side of Teams. You will have somebody in your organization who is the Office 365 administrator. That person will typically also become the Teams administrator, and they have some unique capabilities as well as some unique responsibilities that come with that admin role. So we'll talk about supporting your remote workers with Teams. What do I need to do to make sure all of my teammates are ready to go? How to make calls, how do I get that set up? There is a process to make telephone calls through the Teams environment. You have to get the numbers assigned to you, etc., and then release those numbers out to the team members. But we can facilitate true telephoning within the Teams environment. For those that had adopted Skype for Business, we are now looking to make the transition from Skype for Business into Teams. We'll go through some recommendations, some best practices for how to make that transition. And then finally, just a review of the overall resources and training that's available from the Microsoft side as well as from TMC, how to get better at being a Teams admin. So I would encourage those that are relevant for that, please register for that, or if it wasn't you, but maybe a colleague in your company, we can send the link along to them and get them registered for that. I'd like to thank you very much for attending. I'm going to ask Brett if there looked like there was much in the chat that we could address immediately.
Yeah, we were, thank you, John. That was great. And thank you, everyone, for sending all of your questions in the chat. We were actually very, very busy there. So we're able to address a lot of those questions, I think. Christine Strickland, I do see your additional question, and I can send you directly some information on how to switch organizations within your teams from the web and desktop apps, since you're having trouble with that. So I will send you some information there, but otherwise it looks like everything got answered for the most part. As you can see here though, my email, bhensley@tmc-la.com, and John's at jhoyt@tmc-la.com is available for you if you have any additional questions you want us to answer, whether that's specifically about a function within Teams, getting signed up for that free trial that John mentioned, or anything we can help with. We're more than happy to. So we will again send out this recording for you to review, and we'll be sending out in the follow-up email a link to sign up for the advanced feature webinar next week on Wednesday. So we hope you all can join then. Thank you all for joining us today, and talk to you next week.